The vast assembly hangar stood quiet except for the occasional metallic echo of tools against hull plating. Technicians worked with purpose, their movements careful and precise around the sleek, dark vessel that dominated the space. Unlike other warships in Earth's fleet, this one lacked the usual markings and identifiers. Its surface absorbed light rather than reflecting it, a black void against the bright industrial lights overhead. This was Project Phantom, mankind's desperate answer to an enemy that had appeared from deep space 18 months ago and decimated 3 colony worlds before Earth's combined fleet could mount an effective response. Captain James Walker strode across the walkway overlooking the final assembly, his face set in hard lines. The attack on New Horizon Colony had cost him his brother and sister-in-law, leaving their daughter in his care. The military had become his life before, but now the mission was personal. Impressive, isn't she? The voice belonged to Admiral Reeves, project overseer and Walker's former commanding officer. 30% smaller than our standard destroyers, but with twice the firepower and something the aliens haven't seen yet. Walker nodded. The cloaking system actually works. Better than we hoped. The reverse-engineered tech from that downed scout ship gave our scientists exactly what they needed. Phantom doesn't just hide from sensors. It bends light around its hull. For all practical purposes, it's invisible to both instruments and the naked eye. They descended to the main floor where Dr. Thomas Morgan waited, the civilian scientist's rumpled appearance at odds with the military precision around him. His hands couldn't seem to stay still as he spoke. Captain Walker, it's an honor. The Phantom is ready for your inspection. We've installed the final upgrades to the weapon systems last night. Walker followed the scientist into the ship, noting the compact but efficient layout. The corridors were narrower than standard military vessels, every square inch dedicated to function. The bridge, too, was smaller than he was accustomed to, with stations for a minimal crew. We can run with just 12 people, Morgan explained. The AI handles most of the routine operations. Your crew will focus on tactical decisions and mission-critical systems. Walker ran his hand along the smooth control panel. And the weapons. Morgan's eyes lit up. Conventional railguns with enhanced targeting, of course. But our pride is the pulse cannon. It uses the aliens' own energy signature against them, disrupts their shields at a fundamental level. Admiral Reeves joined them on the bridge. High Command has approved your mission parameters, James. You'll be taking Phantom out for what officially qualifies as a shakedown cruise. Unofficially, you're to locate and gather intelligence on enemy movements near the Arcturus sector. Just intelligence? Walker asked, his voice carrying an edge. Reeves met his gaze steadily. Your primary objective is to test Phantom's capabilities without revealing our full hand. But if an opportunity presents itself to strike a meaningful blow without compromising the ship or its technology, he paused. Use your judgment, Captain. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Walker reviewed personnel files, selecting each crew member personally. He chose people who had lost something to the aliens, who carried the same fire he did, but could control it when necessary. Lieutenant Anna Reed for tactical, with her background in guerrilla warfare tactics. Engineering went to Marcus Bell, whose unconventional approaches had saved 3 ships during the Battle of Proxima. The night before launch, Walker stood alone in his quarters, looking at the photo of his niece Emma, now living with his parents on Earth. The child had barely spoken since losing her parents. "This one's for you, David," he whispered to the memory of his brother. "We're hitting back." At 400 hours, with no ceremony or official documentation, Phantom slipped from its berth and accelerated silently into the darkness of space. The hunt had begun. The Phantom drifted silently through the void, its systems running at minimal power as it approached the edge of the Arcturus sector. For 3 weeks, they had moved cautiously through enemy territory, avoiding detection while gathering intelligence on alien movements. Captain Walker stood on the bridge, arms crossed as he studied the tactical display showing a small moon orbiting a gas giant. According to their intelligence, the aliens had established a forward base there. Sensors are picking up significant activity, Lieutenant Reed reported, her voice low despite the fact that no one outside could hear them. 8 vessels in orbit, and what appears to be a ground installation on the dark side of the moon. Walker nodded. Let's get closer. Maintain stealth protocols. The Phantom edged forward, its revolutionary hull absorbing both light and scanning signals. Through the viewports, Walker could see the alien vessels, angular constructions with pulsing blue energy conduits running along their hulls. The sight of them stirred something cold in his stomach. Ships like these had reduced New Horizon colony to ashes. I'm picking up communications, said Communications Officer Patel. They're discussing attack coordinates. Sir, I think they're planning another assault on the Ellis colony. Ellis colony housed over 12,000 civilians. Walker's jaw tightened as he made his decision. This is no longer just reconnaissance. Record everything and prepare a data packet for High Command. We're going to disrupt their operation. The bridge fell silent as the crew exchanged glances. This would be their first actual combat test. Marcus, how confident are you in our weapons systems? Walker asked over the comm. Down in engineering, Marcus Bell wiped grease from his hands. The pulse cannon is at 97% efficiency, Captain. One shot should disrupt their shields long enough for the railguns to do serious damage. Good. Plot a course that keeps us in their sensor shadow. We'll strike their command vessel first, then target their communications array on the moon. The Phantom glided into position, using the larger alien vessels to mask its approach. Walker felt the familiar calm of combat settling over him, the clarity that came with purpose. Weapons hot, he ordered. Target locked on their command ship. Fire when ready. Reed's fingers flew over her console, pulse cannon firing in 3, 2, 1. A beam of concentrated energy, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating in its effect, lanced out from the Phantom. It struck the alien command ship precisely where its shield generators were located. The alien vessel shuddered as blue energy sparked and failed across its hull. Railguns, fire. Hypersonic projectiles slammed into the now vulnerable vessel, tearing through its armor with surgical precision. The alien ship listed to one side, internal explosions visible through newly created breaches. Communications array next, Walker commanded. The Phantom pivoted smoothly, already targeting the moon base. The aliens had not yet realized what was happening or where the attack was coming from. Their distress calls, picked up by Patel, revealed confusion and panic. The second strike disabled the communications array on the moon, preventing the aliens from calling for reinforcements. Walker ordered a third attack on their fuel storage facilities, triggering a chain reaction that ripped through the base. That's enough, Walker said as he watched the destruction unfold. Let's disappear before they figure out what hit them. The Phantom pulled away, its engines at minimal power as it slipped back into the darkness. Behind them, the alien forces scrambled in disarray, ships moving in random patterns as they searched for their attacker. Data packet ready for transmission to High Command, Patel reported. Send it through the encrypted channel, Walker replied. And everyone, good work. As the Phantom accelerated away from the scene, Walker watched the tactical display. The aliens had begun firing blindly into space, hoping to hit something they couldn't see. Their desperation was evident, and for the first time since the war began, Walker felt a sense of satisfaction. Humanity had struck back, not with overwhelming force but with intelligence and precision. Set course for the Orion Nebula, Walker ordered. We'll lie low for a few days, analyze their response patterns, then find another target. The hunt had truly begun, and the hunters had drawn first blood. High Command's response to the Phantom's first strike came through as the ship hid within the dust clouds of the Orion Nebula. The encoded transmission was brief but clear. Operation successful. Continue mission with expanded parameters. Neutralize enemy logistics and communications at your discretion. Walker gathered the crew in the small mess hall to share the news. Their faces showed a mixture of pride and determination as he explained their new mandate. We're no longer just gathering intelligence. Walker told them. "We're taking the fight to them. Our mission is to disrupt their supply lines, disable their communications, and make them fear what they can't see." Over the next 2 months, the Phantom struck with calculated precision. They ambushed supply convoys in the Ellis sector, disabled communications relays near Proxima Centauri, and destroyed a fuel depot that had been supporting the alien fleet's operations in human territory. After each attack, they vanished without a trace, leaving confusion and fear in their wake. The aliens began traveling in larger groups, wasting resources on escort ships and constant sensor sweeps that never detected the Phantom's presence. "They're calling us the Ghost," Paddle reported after intercepting alien communications. "They think we're multiple vessels. Some of their commanders are being punished for failing to capture us." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Fear makes people careless." The alien military command assigned their most decorated hunter to find and destroy the human vessel. Commander Drek had earned his reputation by tracking and eliminating elusive targets. His ship, the Harvester, was specially equipped with advanced detection systems, designed to find even the smallest trace of engine emissions or heat signatures. The Phantom was running silent near an asteroid field when Reed detected unusual scanning patterns. "Sir, something's different. These scans are more focused, more methodical than what we've seen before." Walker studied the data. "They've brought in a specialist. Keep us on minimal power and maintain our position within the asteroid field's magnetic disturbances." For 3 days, they watched as the Harvester and its escort vessels swept the sector in an expanding search pattern. Drek was thorough, leaving no area unchecked. "He's good," Walker admitted as they observed from hiding. "But we can use his thoroughness against him. Plot the pattern of his search." Reed analyzed the data. "He's moving in a clockwise spiral, spending approximately 8 hours in each subsector. Then we'll hit where he's already searched," Walker decided. "He won't expect us to strike behind him." The Phantom slipped away, carefully navigating through the asteroid field until they reached a sector Drek had cleared 2 days earlier. There, they found what they were looking for: a lightly defended communications hub relaying tactical information to the alien fleet. "Perfect target," Walker said. "Quick strike, then we disappear again." The attack was flawlessly executed. The Phantom decloaked just long enough to fire its pulse cannon, followed by a barrage from its railguns. The communications hub exploded in a brilliant flash, its destruction immediately detected by Drek's sensors. The Harvester turned and raced back, but by the time it arrived, the Phantom was gone, having jumped to a different sector entirely. What Drek found instead was a small device floating among the debris, a human voice recorder playing a message on repeat in clear alien language. "Can't catch a ghost." When Walker heard about Drek's reaction, the commander had ordered the recorder destroyed with excessive firepower. He knew they had accomplished more than just a tactical victory. They had gotten under the alien skin. "He'll be more aggressive now," Walker told his crew. "He'll take risks, expand his search parameters, burn more fuel trying to find us. And every time he fails, his superiors will press him harder." The psychological warfare had begun in earnest. The Phantom continued its hit-and-run tactics, sometimes leaving small human tokens behind. Empty ration packs, outdated star charts, anything to suggest human presence where there was none. The hunt continued, but now the hunter was becoming the hunted. Commander Drek stood before the holographic display on his command ship, clawed hands clasped behind his back as he studied the movements of his forces. 8 ships spread across 3 sectors, yet the human ghost vessel continued to elude them while striking with impunity. His superiors were growing impatient. 3 supply convoys destroyed, 2 communications hubs disabled, and countless hours wasted chasing shadows. "The humans are using our own tactics against us," he told his second-in-command. "They strike and disappear, but every predator has patterns, and every ship needs fuel and supplies." Drek's plan formed quickly. He ordered a seemingly vulnerable convoy to travel through the Hybrid Nebula. a natural choke point with limited exit vectors. The ships would carry only token cargo, but would emit signals suggesting they transported critical weapon components. Meanwhile, 3 of his best hunter ships would hide within the nebula's gas clouds, their systems running silent. "The Ghost cannot resist such a target," Drex said, "and when it appears, we will spring our trap." Aboard the Phantom, Captain Walker and his crew intercepted the convoy's transmissions. After 2 months of successful operations, the crew had developed a comfortable rhythm. But Walker noticed the first signs of fatigue. The constant vigilance, the need to maintain stealth protocols, the limited quarters, all were taking their toll. "Seems too easy," Reed said, studying the convoy's path. 6 ships, minimal escort, carrying what appears to be phase converter technology through a nebula that would mask our approach. Walker frowned. "I agree. It's suspicious. But it also presents an opportunity." Dr. Morgan, who had joined them for this mission to monitor the stealth systems, spoke up. "If they're setting a trap, we could use it to gather intelligence on their new detection methods. We've intercepted communications about enhanced sensor arrays." Walker considered the risks. "We'll approach with extreme caution. Passive scans only. If anything feels wrong, we abort immediately." The Phantom entered the nebula at 1/4 power, its systems barely registering on even the most sensitive equipment. They moved like a shadow within shadows, the gas clouds providing additional cover. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures scattered throughout the nebula," Reed reported. "They could be sensor buoys or ships running silent." Walker finished. "Hold position." The Phantom froze in space, its engines dormant, its hull absorbing both light and scanning signals. Walker ordered a focused scan of the areas with unusual readings. 3 vessels hiding in the gas pockets, Reed confirmed. Heavy weapons signatures, definitely not part of the convoy. Walker smiled grimly. "An ambush. Well planned, but not well enough. Can we slit past them and still reach the convoy?" Reed calculated trajectories. "Yes, if we stay within 5 kilometers of the largest gas pocket, their sensors should be effectively blind." The Phantom crept forward, following the path Reed had plotted. They were almost past the hidden ships when an unexpected solar flare from the nearby star illuminated the nebula, temporarily burning away some of the concealing gas. "We've been spotted," Reed called out as proximity alarms blared. "Enemy vessels powering up weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered calmly. "Prepare pulse cannon for defensive fire only." The Phantom accelerated, its superior maneuverability allowing it to dodge the first volley of enemy fire. But a second barrage caught them as they emerged from a dense gas cloud. The ship shuddered violently as energy weapons impacted their aft shields. "Shields holding at 60%, Bell reported from engineering. But that was new technology. Some kind of adaptive energy weapon that partially penetrated our stealth field. Walker made a split-second decision. Deploy countermeasures and execute emergency jump to coordinates Epsilon 3. The Phantom released a cloud of sensor-confusing particles as its engines flared to life, propelling it away from the ambush at maximum speed. 2 of Drex's ships gave chase, but the Phantom's superior engines quickly outpaced them. Once safely away, Walker assessed the damage. Minimal hull breach in Section 4, already sealed. No casualties, but they've adapted their weapons to our technology faster than expected. Reed looked up from her console. "Sir, during the engagement, I managed to download partial data from their tactical network. They're gathering a massive fleet, hundreds of ships converging near the Proxima system." Walker's expression darkened. "That's less than 2 light years from Earth. They're planning something big." The hunt had taken an unexpected turn. They had escaped Drex's trap, but at the cost of revealing vulnerabilities in their stealth system. More importantly, they now carried intelligence that could change the course of the war. The Phantom limped back to the secret rendezvous point where a supply drone waited with replacement parts and provisions. Walker had transmitted the intelligence about the gathering alien fleet ahead of their arrival, marking it urgent for High Command's attention. The response came 12 hours later as the crew worked to repair the damage from Drek's new weapons. Admiral Reeves appeared on the secure channel, his face grave. "We've analyzed your data, James. Our intelligence confirms over 300 enemy vessels gathering near Proxima. It's the largest concentration we've seen since the war began." Walker leaned forward. "They're preparing for a major assault on Earth, sir. We need to disrupt their formation before they launch." The Admiral shook his head. "High Command doesn't see how one ship, even the Phantom, could make a meaningful difference against such numbers. They're recalling you to help defend Earth directly." After the transmission ended, Walker remained in his quarters, staring at the tactical displays. The crew sensed his mood when he finally emerged for the evening meal. The small mess hall fell silent as he entered. "They're pulling us back," he announced. "We're to return to Earth and join the defense fleet." Reed spoke first. "With respect, sir, by the time they launch their attack, it will be too late to stop them. We need to hit them now, while they're still gathering." Walker nodded. "I know, but High Command believes we're outnumbered and outgunned." Dr. Morgan, who had been quietly eating at the corner table, cleared his throat. "Perhaps we are. But what if we could enhance our capabilities? I've been studying the data from our encounter with Drek's forces." All eyes turned to the scientist as he projected schematics onto the mess hall wall. "Their new weapons partially penetrated our stealth field because they operate on a harmonic frequency that disrupts our cloaking technology. But if we invert that same principle, we could actually strengthen our stealth capabilities and potentially enhance our weapon systems." Bell, the chief engineer, studied the designs. "It's risky. We'd need to take the main systems offline for at least 12 hours. If we're discovered during the modifications, we'd be defenseless," Walker finished. "But if it works..." Morgan's eyes gleamed with excitement. "We could potentially remain undetected even at close range, and the pulse cannon's effectiveness could increase by at least 30%. Walker looked around the table at his crew. "This is not a decision I can make alone. If we proceed with these modifications and return to Proxima, we'll be directly disobeying orders. I need to know where each of you stands." One by one, the crew voiced their support. Only Lieutenant Commander Davis, the second in command, expressed hesitation. "Sir, I understand the tactical advantage, but insubordination of this magnitude, there will be consequences." Walker met his gaze. "Noted, Tom. And you're right. But if those 300 ships reach Earth, there won't be much left to court-martial us for." The vote was unanimous. For the next 12 hours, the Phantom drifted in the shadow of a small asteroid as Morgan and Bell implemented the modifications. The rest of the crew worked in shifts, helping where they could and maintaining vigilance against potential threats. Tensions ran high as the hours passed. Walker found Reed and Davis arguing in the corridor outside engineering. "The calculations are sound," Reed insisted. "We need to reroute power from life support to boost the stealth field." "And if the calculations are wrong," Davis countered, "we'd be risking the entire crew on theoretical physics." Walker stepped between them. "Enough. We're all under pressure, but we can't afford to turn on each other. Davis, verify the life support redundancies. Reed, double-check your calculations with Morgan." As the two officers departed in opposite directions, Walker felt the weight of command more heavily than ever before. He retreated to his quarters and took out the photo of his niece Emma. The fate of Earth, her fate, might well depend on the success or failure of their unauthorized mission. When Bell finally called to report that the modifications were complete, Walker gathered the crew once more. "Set course for Proxima," he ordered. "Maximum stealth. We're going to test our new capabilities against the greatest concentration of enemy forces in the war." The Phantom powered up its enhanced systems and disappeared into the void, bound for what would likely be its most dangerous mission yet. The Phantom emerged from its jump near the outer edge of the Proxima system, sensors immediately scanning the vast expanse before them. Even with their advanced equipment, the crew gasped at the sight on their tactical displays. Hundreds of alien vessels formed a massive armada, arranged in concentric rings around what appeared to be a command structure of unprecedented size. "My God," whispered Davis, his previous doubts forgotten in the face of such overwhelming force. "If that reaches Earth." Walker studied the formation carefully. "They're still gathering. Some of those outer vessels just arrived. We have a small window before they're fully organized." The modified stealth systems performed beyond expectations. The Phantom glided closer to the alien fleet, completely undetected as it passed between massive warships that dwarfed it in size. Dr. Morgan watched his instruments with nervous excitement. "The enhancements are working perfectly," he reported. "They can't see us even at this range." Walker identified their first target, a command vessel coordinating the movements of an entire section of the Armada. "Let's test our improved weapons. Target their command and control systems only. I want to create confusion, not alert them to our full capabilities yet." The enhanced pulse cannon fired, its beam now carrying modifications based on the alien technology they had encountered. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The command shift shields failed completely, and its communication systems exploded in a cascade of electrical fires. Before the aliens could respond, the Phantom had already moved to its next target. Over the next 6 hours, the Phantom struck with surgical precision, disabling communication nodes, navigation systems, and command vessels throughout the fleet. The aliens fell into disarray, ships colliding as coordination failed, friendly fire incidents erupting as vessels fired blindly at suspected locations of the attacker. In the heart of the alien fleet, Commander Drek watched the chaos unfold from his flagship. Unlike his panicking subordinates, he remained calm, analyzing the pattern of attacks. "It's the ghost ship," he told his officers. "One vessel causing all this destruction. Notice how the attacks are precisely timed and sequenced, the work of a single tactical officer." Drek ordered his technicians to recalibrate their sensors based on the data from their previous encounter. "They've improved their stealth technology, but they still need to briefly decloak to fire their main weapons." He deployed specialized sensor drones throughout the fleet, creating a 3-dimensional detection grid that could catch even the slightest energy fluctuation. Then he waited. Aboard the Phantom, the crew was celebrating their success. They had disabled or destroyed nearly 30 vessels without taking a single hit. "Their fleet is in complete disarray," Reed reported. "Communication between their ships is breaking down. Some vessels are even retreating." Walker wasn't convinced. "It's too easy. Trek won't give up without." Alarms blared as sensors detected dozens of small objects activating throughout the fleet. "Sensor drones," Morgan shouted. "They're creating a detection web." "Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered. "Full power to stealth systems." The Phantom twisted through the chaotic battlefield, narrowly avoiding collisions with damaged alien vessels. But the sensor net was tightening around them. 3 times they nearly escaped, only to find another layer of drones blocking their path. "They're hurting us," Walker realized too late. "Trying to force us into." A massive gravitational distortion field suddenly activated directly ahead of them, created by 5 specialized alien vessels positioned in a pentagon formation. The Phantom shuddered as its engines strained against the powerful forces dragging it toward the center of the trap. "We can't break free," Bell reported from engineering. "The gravitational forces are too strong." On his flagship, Drek allowed himself a satisfied smile as his display showed the human vessel caught in his trap. He opened a communication channel that would penetrate the Phantom systems. "Captain of the ghost ship," his translated voice boomed through the Phantom speakers. "You have fought admirably, but your hunt ends here. Surrender your vessel and crew or be destroyed." Walker looked around at his exhausted but determined crew. "Options." Reed studied her tactical display grimly. "Conventional weapons won't penetrate their combined shields. We're surrounded on all sides. Standard escape routes are blocked." Morgan leaned forward. "There is one option, Captain. The experimental Nova weapon." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The Nova weapon was the Phantom's last resort, a theoretical device that had never been tested in actual combat. Walker met each crew member's eyes before giving his answer. Prepare the Nova weapon. We're not surrendering this ship. In the dim emergency lighting of the Phantom's bridge, Captain Walker accessed the sealed command protocols for the Nova weapon. The system required dual authorization, and Reed stepped forward to provide the second code. Nova weapon arming sequence initiated. The ship's AI announced in an unnervingly calm voice. Charging will complete in 3 minutes. Be advised. Blast radius will exceed current safe distance parameters. Morgan's face was pale as he explained. The Nova creates a cascading energy reaction that expands outward, disrupting all power systems it encounters. Theoretically, it should disable Drek's ships long enough for us to escape. And not so theoretically, Walker asked. The reaction could feed back into our own systems. We'd need to shut down everything except emergency life support and engines immediately after firing. Drek's voice came through the comms again. Your silence is noted, human captain. You have 30 seconds to surrender before we begin cutting into your hull. Walker opened a channel to engineering. Bell, I need everything you can give me to the engines the moment the Nova detonates. We'll have one chance to break free. Understood, Captain, came Bell's steady reply. But with the gravitational distortion field still active, we'll need a path out. Walker studied the tactical display. 5 alien vessels generated the field that trapped them. If the Nova disrupted all of them simultaneously, all hands, secure for emergency maneuvers, Walker ordered. Reed, target the Nova to create maximum disruption to those 5 generators. Davis, plot a course directly through the weakest point in their formation. Around the Phantom, alien cutting beams began to pierce the outer hull, creating superheated points that threatened to breach into critical systems. Nova weapon charged, the AI announced. Ready to fire. Walker took a deep breath. All non-essential systems, prepare for immediate shutdown on my mark. Fire the Nova. A strange silence fell as the weapon discharged. Unlike their conventional weapons, the Nova released no visible beam or projectile. For a split second, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to warp around them. A ripple of energy expanded outward from the Phantom in all directions, invisible except for the distortion effect it created as it passed through space. When it reached the 5 generator ships, their power cores overloaded in spectacular cascades of blue-white energy. All systems shut down now, Walker shouted. The Phantom went dark, life support failing, artificial gravity disappearing as every system, except the emergency engine controls, powered down. In the resulting darkness, the crew floated weightlessly as Bell executed the pre-programmed engine burst. The ship lurched forward, breaking free of the now collapsing gravitational field. But the Nova's effect was more powerful than anyone had anticipated. As the energy wave continued to expand, it triggered chain reactions throughout the alien fleet. Command ships lost control of their weapons, vessels collided as navigation systems failed, and power cores went critical. Inside the Phantom, the crew worked in near darkness to restore basic systems. The hull breach warnings flashed on emergency power, showing damage throughout the ship. We're clear of the immediate blast zone, Davis reported, checking their position. But the Nova is still expanding. Half their fleet is already disabled. Drek's flagship, Walker asked. Reed checked the sensors. Heavily damaged, but still operational. They're attempting to rally the remaining ships. As systems gradually came back online, Walker assessed their situation. The Phantom had survived, but just barely. Hull breaches on multiple decks, weapons systems offline, and the stealth technology damaged beyond immediate repair. Sir, Reed said quietly, look at this. On the main screen, they watched as the alien armada fell apart. The carefully organized invasion force was now a scattered collection of damaged vessels. Some fled, others drifted powerless in space. The few intact ships were overwhelmed trying to assist their crippled companions. They won't reach Earth, Davis said. Not now. Maybe not for months. Walker nodded. Send a transmission to High Command. Tell them the alien invasion force has been neutralized, but request immediate extraction. The Phantom has done her part." As the damaged ship limped away from the battlefield, Walker made his way to his quarters. Through a breached section of hull, he could see the stars beyond. The same stars that shone down on Earth and all its colonies. The same stars his brother had gazed upon before the aliens took his life. "We did it, David," he whispered. "We showed them humanity doesn't go quietly." 3 weeks later, the Phantom was towed into Earth's orbital shipyard. Admiral Reeves himself came aboard to meet the returning crew. Despite the formal charges of insubordination that had been prepared, he greeted Walker with a salute. "The review board is waiting," he said, "but so is a delegation from every colony world. They're calling you heroes." Walker looked at his weary but proud crew. "We just did what needed doing, sir, without mercy." In the years that followed, more stealth vessels would join Earth's fleet, but none would match the legend of the Phantom. The lone ship that had turned the tide of war with courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable human spirit.